once I hit the goal, then I will feel good. Once I hit this next level, then I can relax more.
Yeah.
Once I have more team, then I can create more space. Once I get past this financial hiccup, then I'll be more credible. Then I can share this story. Then I can, own and express who I really am. And
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm your host, Shay Wheat, founder of Grace and Ease Productions, where we support entrepreneurs just like you with event-based marketing and sales strategies, allowing you to build your authority, your credibility, and your visibility in your industry. Now, today, I want to talk to the ladies in the house because I don't know about you, but there's this thing called grind. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about this because are you somebody that kind of has that constant feeling that we must strive for more and more and more achievement in order to really just like finally feel fulfilled and like reach that destination? Okay, I have. So that's why I've brought my guest on today, Alex Pursglove, because she is a conscious entrepreneur. She's a master coach. She's a public speaker, and she's helped hundreds of women across the world by elevating in their business while most importantly, loving who they really are, living, breathing, and just trusting that just radical truth within. Now, she has this revolutionary way of just teaching how to really approach success. Instead of that whole striving for more achievement in order to feel fulfilled, Alex really teaches just that reverse path of feeling amazing about yourself first, and then from there, creating greater results and having a fully expressed life. So please help me welcome Alex to the Creating Powerful Impact stage. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Shay. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. That was lovely. I've got tingles right now. You
I
fired
got
me up.
goosebumps, right? But I mean, it's true. There's like this constant grind that at least I feel as I progress further and further in business. And I know a lot of other women. I mean, we're in a group, a women's group that is also talking about that, and they're like, we got to take the ice baths and we got to go here and then we got to do this and we got to like wake up at 2 a.m. and you're like, honestly.
I have a 3-year-old. The 2 a.m. start time does not work for me. It just doesn't feel good.
Right. So I want to like maybe dive into a little bit about, you've had a little bit of this journey yourself, right? Going into that grind and then flipping it. So can you tell me a little bit about like what was coming up for you that you were like, I'm done. I'm done with the grind. I'm done pushing like this. And when you switched, what was coming up for you? And then kind of what was the results on the back end?
Mm. Well, I've absolutely had my journey with this multiple times over. So let me actually start, Shay, at what I would say is the beginning of this 12-year plus quest I've been on to living this fully expressed life over striving for
Mm,
achievements. And
mhm,
it was actually when I was 24 years old, living in Dallas, Texas at the time. I was working in the film industry and I was in a relationship with an older, successful entrepreneur. And on the outside, I had checked all these boxes, right? Feeling really great about how my life looked to other people. And yet on the inside, my self-worth was at an all-time low. My relationship was toxic, narcissistically abusive. The film industry, I was working as a gopher and working long hours, super bored, underutilized, feeling misaligned with the culture and like I wasn't actually exercising my potential. And then in March of 2011, I was suddenly diagnosed with a tumor in my pancreas with cancerous tissue. And at 24, that completely rocked my world. And I remember getting that phone call and just feeling this such deep fear and sadness that I had so little to show for my life. And so I went home that night, I fall onto my bathroom floor, and I think I was in so much fear that I hit this point of just surrendering to divine guidance and saying, okay, what now? What do I do with this? Because I'm just so afraid. And it became very clear to me that there were only two things that really mattered in my life. And it wasn't about checking off these goals so that I could validate myself or talk about it to other people or look good to other people or do what other people thought I should do. It was about really living with more unconditional love, acceptance, and feeling connected to God, and then creating a greater, more significant impact.
Mm.
And by using my gifts, by doing what I actually wanted to do and what filled me up. And those were the only two things that mattered. And it was so crystal clear. And so that night, I just vowed that I was going to change my life. I was going to use this to serve me. And so my tumor turned out to be incredibly rare. It was non-aggressive. I was cured from a surgery at the National Institute of Health. And so really blessed that it went the way it did. And I thought, okay, this is a real gift. I'm going to use this to change my life. So within 6 months, I left the film industry, I left my relationship, and I started on this quest to live with more fulfillment. And so spent 7 years in nonprofit, then started my business, found the coaching industry, and fast forward a couple years in, we're at about 2020, 2021 at this point. And what I started to realize was that I knew what I wanted when I turned 24. I wanted to live this fully expressed life. I wanted to use my gifts and talents. But what I came to see was that all these patterns were still operating underneath the surface that were keeping me in cycles of inner judgment, of doubt, of fear, people pleasing, self-sacrificing. And really, I didn't know how to actually trust myself.
Mm.
So I started building, my coaching business and started creating this great success. And in 2020, I had this 10x growth in a year and a half from doing all of this coaching work and inner work and learning how to really do powerful sales, how to run a business, how to add team, how to develop this success mindset, how to run a successful business. And I started shifting my people pleasing patterns and things that had been keeping me in lower confidence. And so in that process, I was learning how to be a more powerful coach and a stronger leader. And yet I still created this business that was not fully aligned with who I am. And I was still operating in the cycle of striving to achieve so that I could prove my worth, so that
Mm.
I could prove that I was good enough. And it wasn't even fully conscious at the time, but I finally reached this point of working so hard, never having enough space. And even when I did create space, I wasn't fully present where I was. And so there was a night, I had my daughter in 2021, and there was a night I was playing with her on the living room floor. And all of a sudden it hit me that probably 20, 30 minutes had passed, and I didn't even know what we had been playing. Like I was so distracted because my mind was just thinking about my next launch and how am I going to, hit a six-figure launch this time, because even though I'd made more money than I ever had before in this launch, and I had accelerated into this multi six-figure business and working with more clients and running master classes all over the world, it still felt like it wasn't enough yet. I was always focused on what's the next thing.
Mhm. So Alex, let me ask you this real quick. Like, so I love that you kind of had this aha moment of you're playing with your daughter and like you didn't even necessarily know all the things because your brain was someplace else. The next launch, the next thing, growing the business, so on and so forth. So talk to me about like when you had that conscious thought of like, I've just lost 30 minutes. What was that? Like, did you get smacked up beside the head? Did you like what happened?
Yeah, it was this inner whisper, like one of those whispers from your body, from your soul. And my mind all of a sudden just paused, and I heard this inner whisper that said, "Your daughter's going to be this age once, and you're missing it."
Oh,
Oh, it was so
oh.
so tender, so painful. Um, and I'm so grateful for that moment because I realized how much that mattered to me. She matters so much to me. And my husband and my family, they're my top priority. And my business is a huge priority in my life. Me living my purpose is a huge priority. But what I realized again was that striving for all the achievements and what everyone else thinks, and hitting the goals or hitting the numbers so that I could say I hit them, so I could feel like, oh, I hit seven figures in 3 years, so therefore I'm credible. That didn't matter. It's not
Mhm.
what was important. It was about wanting my life to be more in alignment with who I really am, with my family, with my true desires. And so that was another moment where I said, okay, there's another shift coming.
Mhm.
Um, and it helped me see that there were places that, one, I could still be finding my worth from the inside out instead of in my external results. and where I could be removing more judgment or wrong making about where I was. And what I came to see from this is that my business was also misaligned with who I had become.
Mm.
And all the programming I had built, just with how much I had evolved by that point, my audience, my programs, my offers were just misaligned with who I'd become. The gap had become too big. And so I made this sort of radical decision to follow my heart, to follow my intuition, from what I know. Cultivating more trust in our intuition doesn't come from just being aware of it. You have to actually take aligned action with where your
Yeah.
intuition's guiding you. And the more you take that action, the more trust you build. And so I said, okay, I'm going to take these radical steps. I let go of my programming, clients, team, everything that was misaligned, and decided to rebuild.
Mm.
And so it was certainly came with fear again and a lot of unknown. And it also was where I really found the truth of what living a fully expressed life looks like for me.
Yeah. Wow. So that's extremely scary, right? You like, will the money come if I decide to like listen to my gut and my trust and my intuition and actually be fully aligned? Can I still make the income to support my family the way that I'm used to and still go beyond it as well,
Mhm.
right? But would you share kind of your experience of when you did start to really tap into that fully and release the things that no longer served? Like it served its purpose to get you to that point. But
Mhm.
now to get you where you wanted to go isn't necessarily serving you. What kind of happened and transpired?
Yeah, well, first it was starting to create programming from more of my heart and what
Mm.
was actually exciting me. So one of the biggest shifts I made was releasing the question, is this going to work? Or what will work? What do I do? And started exploring more, who am I really? And what's going to expand me? What would expand me? What could I create from my heart over my head?
Mm-hmm.
So I started slowing down, creating a lot more space, a lot more presence, and really exploring what was actually lighting me up from the inside out, what actually was a yes from my gut instead of any kind of comparison, what everyone else is doing. I really came to see the truth. There's so many different strategies, right, that can work, that can support you in growing your business. It's about finding what's actually aligned with you and who you are and what lights you up and how you like to build relationships, how you want to run your programming. So it really was this deeper exploration into what do I actually want to create, while also cultivating more and more and more acceptance for who I am and where I am now. Because I
Mm.
think that's one of the biggest things, Shay, that we have backwards in our society is that belief that once I hit the goal, then I will feel good. Once I hit this next level, then I can relax more.
Yeah.
Once I have more team, then I can create more space. Once I get past this financial hiccup, then I'll be more credible. Then I can share the story. Then I can, own and express who I really am. And that was a big thing I had to reconcile because I had taken out actually some significant loans when my business had exploded in growth and I was investing in more coaching and more team and more support. And so I took out significant over six figures in loans. And then I decided to let over half my business go.
Oh, wow.
And as a business growth coach, that was something I had to really come in to terms with, was saying, yeah, so I've got debt now on my business. I've got loans. And for me and my background and how I'd been raised and conditioned, that would make me uncredible. That was really bad. That was something I should feel wrong about. I made the wrong decision. And so it ended up being this beautiful growth opportunity because I went into the place that I was the most afraid of being wrong and was able to see the blessings and the benefits and the gifts in it and really take my self-worth to the next level by saying, I am worthy of investing in myself. I'm worthy of investing in my dreams. And it's okay to take out loans, to have these lessons, because in truth, you cannot do it wrong. When
Mm.
everything is an opportunity for learning, for growth, and for your own expansion, you can't do it wrong.
Yeah. Would you say in this process, there's been like a framework or there's been something that's kind of outlined for you that you've noticed like through working through it with yourself and then other people that you've been working through? Is there, are there some steps that we need to be like starting with if we're in the situation right now, Alex, where it's like, fudge, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. Now what?
Yeah. I love that you're asking this, Shay, because you and I have talked about this before. Knowing that you want to trust yourself, or knowing that trusting yourself is going to help you, is one thing, but actually taking that from head knowledge to heart knowledge is a different thing,
Mhm.
especially when you've had years and years of conditioning to doubt yourself, to judge yourself, to make yourself wrong. So I think specifically of one of my clients who has just had such an incredible journey over the last year and a half. And I really related to her experience with having that harsh inner judge and feeling like she always needed to be achieving, and really finding her worth in her productivity and in her outcomes. And so cultivating more trust was essential for her. And what we came to see was that you can't just go from A to Z in self-doubt, right, to radical trust.
Yeah.
So we really started exploring one. I talk about there's four core pillars of radical trust. And so first is nourishment, taking care of yourself, being nurturing to yourself. And that ties into to the radical acceptance of yourself and where you are. And I think that's the problem with the grind culture. Is the whole point of grinding is that I have to grind to get out of where I am. And the goal is more important than taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so self-nourishment, making sure you have more space, which also ties into the second pillar, which is presence. So creating more opportunities to connect with yourself, to slow down, to just be instead of to do, which then leads into our third pillar, which is a multi-layer pillar and definitely goes deep, but it's living with full expression. And the three core aspects of full expression, your spiritual, sexual, and creative expression. So exploring where you're wearing masks, where you're people pleasing, where you're living with seeking approval from others, and where you're believing that you're not already worthy, free, magical, and good enough.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start living in those truths, that I'm already free. Freedom isn't based on the money I make or the schedule that I have. My freedom is based on knowing that I'm already good enough outside of what anyone else says, and that that I cannot do it wrong.
Yeah.
That's what creates true freedom. So when you're living with nourishment, presence, and full expression, it supports the fourth pillar, which is to step into the unknown. And that's where you're taking more and more action to follow your heart into the next level, into the unknown, following your intuition and trusting in it, even when you don't know how it's going to unfold.
Yeah. Gosh, that's brilliant. And if I think about it, it's like laws of nature, right? So nature will constrict before it expands, right? You have to slow down before you could speed up. You have to go within before you can like expand outward. It's similar to kind of what you're saying here is like we keep pushing and pushing and pushing, trying to constantly expand. When we do it to the point of that's when we get the burnout, and that's when we get the issues with body or breakdown or whatever, is because we haven't actually gone forward to come back, to go much further, to come back a couple of steps, to go 4 steps forward, to come back to it's that law of nature that you see everywhere, right? One of my clients was actually saying you have to prune the grapes in order to get the best wine.
Oh, I love that.
Right? And the same thing for
Yes.
roses. You have to prune back the roses to get the prettiest, most vibrant roses. So in your journey, you've pruned back the business to then get to the point now where you're supporting everybody else as well as yourself, because I'm sure it's a constant thing, right? It's
Yes.
like it's a constant back and forth and reevaluating, and is this still in alignment type of piece, would you say? Is that what you're seeing with some people that you're working with?
Yes, yes, absolutely. And thank you for asking, because circling back to the client I mentioned about taking through, this process, and for her, a really significant part of it was the self-acceptance piece. And it was a beautiful moment when she had this realization of, wow, what's really been making my journey so hard is judging it and constantly telling myself it's not good enough yet. It's got to be better. I've got to do more. I've got to do more. And when we were able to reverse that, it was amazing to see. It was the first year was all about just realigning everything in her business to her clients, her team, creating so much more support, people that she actually really enjoys working with more. And then she started creating a lot more space for herself and taking walks during the day and, having meditation practices. And she said to me not that long ago, it's just amazing how in just a year and a half, she was living in misery because of constant anxiety, that it just wasn't enough yet, to now not only has she actually doubled her business, she's doing it with less effort, less work. And she said, like, I actually have no pressure on myself. And that's the most amazing experience. And with her, she told me just the other day that she's enjoying her time with her kids so much more and being so much more present with them. And when I heard that, that for me was the deepest celebration, because I could relate to not being present with your children, right? And now it's like, I'm living in that too. When I'm with my daughter, I'm with my daughter. And it's the most beautiful thing to be with my daughter.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that, Alex. And to actually have you experience, not only for yourself but for your clients, to go, okay, when we did slow down, when we went through the 4 pillars, things actually expanded rapidly. So it's kind of like quantum leaps in a sense, would you say?
Yep, it is, because, well, at least how I define, or how I see quantum leaps, it's having an explosion of growth that's far beyond the next logical step, which I'm quoting
Yeah.
from Price Pritchett, is who has defined quantum leaps for me. And it's quantum leaping your inner world experience, like quantum leaping how you treat yourself, how you see yourself. It's coming to see the beauty of who you really are now. And when you do that, your external world matches it, right? Our external world is always reflecting back to us what we believe we're worthy of, how we see ourselves. So when you shift how you see yourself and really stand in your worthiness and your value from the inside out, well, then the outside starts to reflect what's happening inside.
Yeah, yeah. And I also love the piece where you're talking about like getting out of the head and more into the heart and more into the body and listening. I guess it would be trusting the intuition that, I mean, I think women talk about more. Men have intuition, absolutely. Like I watch my fiance and like, oh, you were spot on today. Right? But
Yep.
at least in the circles that I'm a part of and that we're both a part of, it's interesting to see that dichotomy of I need to push, but I really want to like tap into the intuition and trust that to have that quantum leap. What would you say to somebody that is in that space and is a bit fearful of like trusting it?
So what I would encourage is to first focus on detaching from the outcomes and prioritize the journey and how you want to experience the journey. Because that fear of feeling like I have to push, but then, this fear of, well, what if it doesn't work out exactly how I think it will? Our mind, our ego its only evidence is from past experience. So what we believe is possible for us is so often influenced by what we've already experienced. And there are better, more amazing, more abundant results here available for us when we tap into our inner guidance, right? Because I'm a spiritual person. I'm a believer in oneness and soul expansion. And I really believe that what we're all here to experience is the expansion of our souls. We're meant to know who we really are. And so our souls are always guiding us towards this incredible expansion and the lessons we need and experiencing more. And so we can achieve and create and experience even more than what we think we're capable of when we trust that intuition. And when we can detach from the outcome and trust that it's giving us exactly what we need, we don't need to worry about what the results are going to be. Right. So it's okay to honor that fear. Of course, that fear is going to be here. This is the part of radical acceptance. We often judge ourselves for our fear, right? Of like, oh, I'm growth minded. I should know better. I should know not to worry about the unknown. And it's like, no, you're also a human. Of course you have that fear. You have years of conditioning to be afraid of the unknown. Go ahead. It's allowed to be here. Give it a voice. Let it be here. Just move it to the passenger seat and let your highest self drive. This is where you bring in your intuition, right? And say, like, you
Yeah.
can sit next to me. You can have your fear. And I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to trust that when I follow my intuition, it is in highest service to all.
Yeah. Yeah. I it. I love it. Well, you've dropped so many diamonds for us today. Would you mind sharing a little bit about the gift that you have for our audience today?
I'd love to, and it's perfectly aligned with today's conversation because the gift is my ebook, Radical Trust: A Woman's Guide to Manifesting True Desires, Joy, and Passion. And the book covers the 4 pillars of trust that we talked about today. So it gives practical reflection questions and action steps so you can really start cultivating more of the trust within yourself instead of trying to just force yourself into trust by that, like, okay, I have doubt, but now just let me trust. It's helpful and supportive to yourself to actually be intentional about creating more nourishment, more presence, exploring your expression, and stepping into the unknown. So it provides those practical steps forward.
I love that. Thank goodness. I appreciate you for like mapping it out for us because, it's like, okay, if you're there in the spot and you're like, this is great and amazing, I want to do this, but I need a little bit of a roadmap until I can fully trust that. So thank you.
You're quite welcome.
So definitely click in the show notes, the link to go ahead and get that ebook. My last question for you is, what is a takeaway or a memorable note you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Well, I've talked a lot today, Shay, about removing the wrongness and the judgment, because I personally believe judgment is the only thing that makes the journey hard. And judgment is anytime we feel like we should be further along, should be doing more, should be making more money, should be further in business, that's shoulding on ourselves. Even if it feels true, it's judgment, because judgment is making the present moment wrong. And so for me, one of the most transformational things in exploring how to remove my judgment has been recognizing this truth that you cannot get it wrong. Because even if you don't follow your intuition, even if you did something that, created a more difficult experience or created some pain, some sadness, everything is an opportunity for learning and for your expansion. And it's not about the outcomes or the destination. It's about the journey. We're here to experience the journey. So the deepest level of compassion you can possibly find for yourself is saying, oh, wait a minute, I forgive myself and there's nothing to actually forgive because I am worthy all the time.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you being with us here today. And I want to thank our audience for listening and joining us on another episode of Creating Powerful Impact. I'm excited for you to take all the lessons and the resources that you've learned here today, start implementing them, get the book, start implementing the things in the book so that you can create even more impact in your world. Until next time, have an outstanding rest of your day. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Creating Powerful Impact podcast. If you are a successful coach, speaker, author, or thought leader who would like to be on this program, simply visit creatingpowerfulimpact.com/guest. If you are someone who got something out of this interview, would you please do me a favor and share this episode on social media? Just do a quick screenshot with your phone and text it to a friend or post it on your socials. Also, if you know somebody that would be a great guest, tag them on social media to let them know about the show and include the hashtag Creating Powerful Impact. I love seeing all of your posts and great guest selections. We are regularly putting out new episodes and content. To make sure you don't miss any episodes, go ahead and subscribe. Your thumbs up, ratings, and reviews go a long way to help promote the show, and they really mean a lot to me and my team. Want to know more about us? Head on over to our website, graceandeaseproductions.com, or follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Just look for Grace and Ease Productions on your favorite platform. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.